Hello, dear friends. It's me, Ellen, and today I want to share a story that shaped my entire life. A story of collapse betrayal, and how I found the strength to rise from the ashes not just of one, but of two lives that were nearly shattered. You see, I once believed I had it all, a perfect husband, a dream life, until I collapsed unconscious on my living room floor during a rainstorm so skeletal my bones seemed to protrude, only to wake up in a hospital realizing I'd almost died because of a charming smile, a fountain pen etched with two intertwined initials, and an older woman with vast wealth. Yes, I was married to a master deceiver, a man who drove me to the brink of madness and nearly stole my life. Not just through infidelity, but through a calculated psychological manipulation so insidious I once thought I was losing my mind. And the fight to expose him and his lover, a VIP client old enough to be my mother, was a battle for survival I never thought I could win. This is the story of how a 30-year-old girl who believed in love was pushed to the edge of destruction only to find true love and the resilience to overcome all falsehoods. The unraveling facade. The first half. Climax. The trigger. I genuinely believed Ryan was my destiny. Handsome, successful, articulate, he was the ideal man in every woman's eyes. We had a beautiful home, a life others envied. Everything seemed so perfectly aligned. But then, the pieces began to shift ever so subtly at first, like a perfectly arranged puzzle, slowly coming undone. Ryan started spending more and more nights away from home, always citing VIP clients, particularly Mrs. Harrington, an older, wealthy, and influential investor. At first, I brushed off any fleeting thoughts of unease. Business is business, right? But the lavish gifts Ryan began bringing home, not for me but for himself, started to send shivers down my spine. I remember the watch. It was a limited edition timepiece gleaming on his wrist, easily worth tens of thousands of dollars. He wore it with an almost childlike pride, yet it felt unsettling, too grand, too boastful. When I asked him about it, his smile never faltered. "It's nothing, my love. Just a client appreciating my hard work." His words were like a balm, yet the disquiet lingered. Then came the suits. Exquisitely tailored European garments, the kind you'd only ever see in high-end fashion magazines, with intricate, almost invisible, hand-stitched details. He wore them with an air of understated elegance that I found both alluring and strangely alienating. It was as if he was transforming not into a better version of the man I married, but into someone else entirely, a more polished, distant, and ultimately unreachable stranger. Again, when I questioned them, he'd just chuckle, a light, dismissive sound that seemed to float above my growing anxieties. "Business gifts, Ellen, to keep our VIP clients happy. You wouldn't understand the intricacies of high finance relationships." He always knew how to make me feel small, like my concerns were irrational, born of some insecurity only I possessed. And I desperately wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that our perfect picture wasn't cracking, but the cracks were there, subtle, yet undeniable. The beautiful man I married, who promised me forever, was beginning to feel like a stranger, walking through our home, as if it were merely a hotel lobby he occasionally passed through. But the final straw, the gift that truly set off the deafening alarm bells within my naive certainty, was the fountain pen. It was a delicate, impossibly refined piece crafted from some dark, gleaming wood with an intricate silver inlay. And etched into that silver were two intertwining letters, an R and an H. Ryan and Harrington. My heart plummeted, a cold dread washing over me. I picked it up my fingers, tracing the cold metal, the intertwined initials, feeling as if I was holding a piece of evidence from a crime scene. "Ryan," I said, my voice barely a whisper, trembling more than I intended, What's this? He barely glanced up from his tablet, his charming smile still in place, but his eyes held a fleeting, almost imperceptible flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. Irritation. Guilt. Contempt. "Oh, that old thing," he said, waving a dismissive hand as if it were a trivial trinket. "It's nothing. Just a small token from Mrs. Harrington. A thank you for closing that big deal last quarter. She's rather sentimental, you know. It's a business gift, Ellen." "Nothing more. You're overthinking it." He always knew precisely how to twist my words to make me feel like my concerns were unfounded, that I was being overly dramatic or paranoid. And I, desperate to cling to the illusion of our perfect life, desperately wanted to believe him. But the illusion was shattering slowly, painfully, piece by agonizing piece. My unease festered, growing like a relentless weed in my meticulously tended garden. I tried to ignore it, to busy myself with my plants, to prune away the unpleasant thoughts. But they kept growing back, choking the fragile peace I desperately clung to. I started losing sleep night after night. My mind, once clear and focused, became a relentless loop, replaying every dismissive comment, every late-night arrival, every subtle change in his demeanor. He was there, yet he wasn't. His physical presence remained a handsome shell moving through our home, but his emotional presence, his spirit, seemed to be drifting further and further away from me, into a world I couldn't access. My nights were filled with restless tossing and turning my brain a frantic carousel of doubt. My appetite vanished, replaced by a constant, sickening knot of anxiety in my stomach. I withered, both physically and emotionally, becoming a shadow of my former self. The fear gnawed at me, bit by bit. I knew I needed help desperately. I turned to the only person I could think of who Ryan still held, in some regard, his father, Mr. Edward. A stern, old-fashioned man with a keen sense of integrity. He was the one who, in the past, had managed to pull Ryan back from the brink of youthful recklessness. I drove to Mr. Edward's house, my heart heavy with dread, yet clutching onto a fragile flicker of hope. I laid it all out for him. The late nights, the lavish gifts, the incriminating fountain pen, my growing fear, the subtle but relentless psychological control. He listened patiently, his gaze unwavering, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I saw a flicker of genuine concern in someone's eyes. He didn't dismiss me. He didn't tell me I was overthinking. He listened, truly listened, and for that I was eternally grateful. To my genuine surprise, Mr. Edward confronted Ryan. He must have used his influence, his patriarchal authority, because for a brief time, it actually worked. Ryan seemed to snap back to reality. He came home early, he bought me flowers, he held me close and swore remorsefully that he had been overwhelmed by work pressures, that he had lost his way for a moment. He promised to rebuild our relationship, to dedicate himself to me, to us. He even showered me with gifts, small, thoughtful things like a new set of gardening tools, a rare succulent I had always wanted, a book of poetry. They felt like genuine gestures, and I starved for his affection, and truth clung to them with a desperate, aching tenderness. For precisely 1 month, I believed him. We went on dates, we talked for hours, like we used to. We laughed again. It felt like we were falling in love all over again, patching up the cracks, meticulously rebuilding the perfect picture. I convinced myself that my initial suspicions were unfounded, that it was just a rough patch, a momentary stumble, that Ryan truly loved me. That fleeting hope was a fragile thing. Yes, but I nurtured it carefully, like a delicate seedling, watering it with every tender gesture from Ryan, every shared smile. But the fragility of hope became starkly, brutally clear when Mr. Edward suddenly passed away. It was unexpected, a swift and cruel illness that took him from us in a matter of weeks. The man who was Ryan's only anchor, his only true moral compass, his last shred of decency was gone. and with his passing, Ryan completely unraveled. He plunged headfirst into his relationship with Mrs. Harrington, openly, defiantly, as if shedding the last vestiges of his old life and any pretense of loyalty to me. He became utterly cold towards me, his eyes devoid of warmth, replaced by a calculating frost. His psychological control intensified, tightening around me like a boa constrictor. He gaslighted me mercilessly, twisting my words, making me doubt my own sanity, my own perception of reality. You're imagining things, Ellen. You're being paranoid. Why are you always so dramatic? His voice, once so soothing, became a weapon chipping away at my self-worth, making me feel worthless, invisible. Our home, once a sanctuary, became a desolate cage. The vibrant colors of our life together faded into a dull, monotonous gray, a bleak landscape of despair. I was losing myself piece by painful piece, like sand slipping through my fingers. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. My nights filled with restless tossing and turning, my mind consumed by the relentless cycle of his manipulation and my desperate, futile attempts to find an escape. My appetite vanished, replaced by a constant, sickening knot of anxiety in my stomach. I withered both physically and emotionally, becoming a gaunt, ghostly shadow of my former self, my reflection in the mirror, alien and frightening. My only solace, my only remaining escape, was my garden. It was the last place where I felt a flicker of peace, a quiet corner where I could still find beauty and order amidst the growing chaos of my life. I spent hours there tending to my plants, weeding out the unwanted, trying to find a parallel for my own tangled, choked existence. I'd lose myself in the rhythm of the soil, the quiet beauty of growth, the resilience of a sprouting seed. But even there, the tendrils of despair would eventually find me wrapping around my heart, squeezing the last vestiges of hope. I felt myself slipping slowly, inexorably into a bottomless pit. One night, the rain was relentless, drumming against the windows like 1,000 tiny fists, each beat echoing the pounding in my head. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the old house. Ryan wasn't home, of course. The house felt vast and empty, filled only with the echoes of my own despair, my own unspoken pleas. I remember feeling a crushing wave of exhaustion wash over me, a weariness that went beyond mere physical fatigue. It was a soul-deep exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness that demanded I simply give up. I must have been standing in the living room staring blankly at the swirling patterns of rain on the glass when my knees buckled. I don't remember the act of falling, just the sudden jarring jolt of hitting the cold hard floor. Darkness enveloped me, a silent, blessed release from the endless pain. It was my neighbor, dear old Mrs. Gable, who saved me. She noticed our lights were still on, unusually late for a stormy night, and something in her kind, knowing heart prompted her to check. She found me there unconscious on the floor, pale and skeletal, barely clinging to life. She called for help immediately, her voice urgent and laced with fear, and that night she quite literally pulled me back from the brink of oblivion. I owe her my life, and more importantly, my sanity, for her quiet act of kindness. That was the moment I realized I had hit rock bottom, that I had been pushed to the very edge of the abyss, the unveiling, and a new dawn. The second half, the reveal and remaining progression. When I finally woke up in the hospital, I felt astonishingly weak, as if my very essence had been drained away. It took weeks, maybe even months, for my body to recover from the sheer exhaustion and profound malnutrition that had consumed me. But the real healing, the true awakening, began after I was discharged in the quiet, supportive space of a rehabilitation clinic. Slowly, painstakingly, the pervasive fog in my mind began to clear. With the physical nourishment and the steady, gentle guidance of therapists, my spirit began to stir tentatively, at first like a fragile bird testing its wings. I started therapy talking through the tangled web of manipulation, acknowledging the deep, corrosive betrayal, and slowly, painstakingly reclaiming my own narrative, my own truth. The clarity that came with recovery was like seeing the world in full color after years of living in a desolate black and white. It was both a horrifying and liberating revelation. And then something truly extraordinary happened. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I reached out. I sought out David. David, my old friend from the orphanage. He was the one who had loved me fiercely, unconditionally, when we were just kids, navigating a harsh, bewildering world together. We had lost touch after I left for college, swept up in the currents of adult life. And I had often wondered about him, but I had been so utterly consumed by Ryan's suffocating world that I hadn't made the effort to reconnect. But now I found him. And when we met, it was as if no time had passed at all. He listened, truly listened with an intensity and compassion I hadn't experienced in years, as I poured out the entire painful, humiliating truth. There was no judgment in his eyes, no disbelief, only unwavering support, and a quiet, steady strength that felt like a lifeline. He didn't tell me what to do. He didn't offer empty platitudes. He just sat there, holding my hand, his presence a comforting anchor. And when I was done, his voice calm and firm, he simply said, "We'll fix this, Ellen, together." And we did. David, with his quiet determination and incredible resourcefulness, became my silent partner in reclaiming my life. He moved with a subtle grace, a knack for gathering information, without ever being seen. He began to systematically track Ryan. This wasn't about revenge for me, not anymore. It was about justice, about exposing the truth that had nearly destroyed me, about ensuring he couldn't do this to anyone else. David painstakingly collected the evidence. Photos of Ryan and Mrs. Harrington dining intimately in exclusive, dimly lit restaurants, their hands clasped under the table during what Ryan so casually dismissed as business trips. Videos grainy but irrefutable of them entering luxury hotels together, not just once, but multiple times, always in different cities, always under the guise of conferences or client meetings. He even managed to piece together parallel travel logs, cross-referencing Ryan's meticulously crafted business itineraries with Mrs. Harrington's known whereabouts, revealing a damning pattern of deception. The evidence was irrefutable, overwhelming, and utterly damning. We didn't go to the tabloids. We didn't want a public spectacle, a circus of scandal. We wanted justice quiet and precise, aimed directly at the heart of their deceit. David sent the entire dossier of irrefutable evidence to two key recipients: Mrs. Harrington's husband, a powerful and influential man in his own right, known for his formidable legal team, and the board of directors at Ryan's prestigious financial firm. The fallout was swift and devastating, a meticulously constructed house of cards, collapsing in a single, brutal gust of wind. Mrs. Harrington's husband was understandably enraged. He launched an immediate and aggressive legal and financial campaign against Ryan, targeting every asset, every illicit gain Ryan had accrued through his schemes. At the same time, Ryan's company, facing undeniable proof of misconduct and a severe reputational risk, launched an internal investigation. With the overwhelming evidence, Ryan's dismissal was swift and absolute. He was suspended, then fired, his name now synonymous with scandal, his once promising career in ruins. The man who had once glided through life on charm and lies was now left with nothing. I filed for divorce. And this time, with David's quiet support and the dedicated legal team he helped me find, I was strong. I secured all my legal assets, every penny that was rightfully mine, every part of my life he had tried to control and diminish. I didn't want his tainted money, but I would not let him steal what was justly ours what I had built before him. Ryan lost everything: his reputation, his career, his meticulously constructed facade. He was left with nothing but the hollowness he had so expertly built around others, a mirror reflecting his own emptiness. Cultivating a new life. After the dust settled after the last legal paper was signed, I sold the old house. It held too many painful memories, too many ghosts of a life that was never truly mine, never truly real. It was a cathartic act, tearing down that perfect picture piece by painful piece, feeling the weight of the past lift with each closing door. With the proceeds from the sale and my rightfully reclaimed assets, I moved to a new city. A city where no one knew my past, where I could start fresh, where the air felt cleaner and the sunlight felt warmer, as if washing away the residue of deceit. David came with me. Not as a lover, not immediately, for I still needed time to heal, to rebuild the trust within myself. But he came as a steadfast friend, a silent guardian, a comforting anchor. He never pushed, never demanded. He simply was there, a quiet, unwavering presence, understanding my need for space, for time to truly mend. He helped me find a new home, a small house with a sprawling backyard, perfectly suited for a new garden, a new beginning. And slowly, meticulously, I began to cultivate new life from the soil, just as I was cultivating a new life for myself, nurturing fragile seedlings into vibrant, resilient plants. My heart, once so shattered and guarded, began to tentatively open, not with the impulsive, naive trust of my younger self, the girl who believed in perfect pictures, but with a newfound wisdom, a deep understanding of what true connection really meant. I was learning to choose with open eyes and a healed heart, recognizing the subtle signs of authenticity, the quiet beauty of genuine care. David was still there, quietly supportive, always ready to listen, always ready to offer a steady hand, a comforting presence. He understood my journey, my need for space, my need to rebuild. And as I healed, as I blossomed in my new, honest life, I realized that the true love wasn't the dazzling, deceptive kind, the kind that promised the world and delivered only emptiness, but the quiet, steady, unwavering kind that had been there all along, patiently waiting for me to see it, to truly appreciate its profound, understated beauty. It took time, dear friends, a lot of time. Healing is not a race, it's a journey, a slow, winding path with unexpected turns. But eventually, I learned to open my heart again, to trust again, to love again. This time I didn't fall for appearances. I chose with open eyes and a healed heart, and the happiness I found was real, deep, and truly mine. It wasn't about the grand gestures or the glittering facade. It was about the quiet understanding, the shared silence, the unwavering respect, and the profound, comforting joy of being truly seen and truly loved for who I am. Ellen smiles, her eyes glistening slightly, a profound sense of peace on her face, a testament to the journey she has endured. So that's my story. It's a harsh reminder that sometimes the most beautiful exteriors can hide the darkest secrets, but it's also a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Don't ever let appearances fool your heart. Don't let someone else's carefully constructed narrative define your worth. Only when you're brave enough to look straight into the bitter truth, no matter how painful, no matter how much it shatters the illusions you once cherished, can you truly find the happiness that's meant for you. Because sometimes the most painful endings are just the beginning of your real story, the one where you finally become the hero. I hope my story resonates with some of you out there. Have you ever experienced something similar where appearances masked a deeper truth? How did you find your path to healing and rediscovery? Please share your stories in the comments below on the Grandma's Journal channel. We're all in this journey of life together, navigating its complexities and seeking our own truths, and there's so much we can learn from each other. Thank you for listening. And remember, your story matters.